Welcome to I Didn't Sign Up for This, a podcast brought to you by Alzheimer's Arkansas that sheds light on the unexpected moments of caring for someone with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. While challenges in caregiving are expected, some moments can catch you completely off guard. Those I didn't sign up for this moments are as unique as each caregiver. This podcast offers comfort, connection, and practical insights to help you navigate the challenges of caregiving. A heartfelt thank you to the families who share their experiences.
You're listening to I Did Sign Up for This. I'm Carolyn Berry, your host. Friendly reminder, the views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and do not necessarily represent the opinions of any affiliated organizations. Our discussions are based on personal experiences intended to inform and inspire, not to be taken as professional advice. Special thanks to Elder Independence Home Care for sponsoring this episode. Hello and welcome, Stephenie A. Cooke. Thank you for agreeing to share your personal experience.
It's my pleasure, Carolyn. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your personal experience in caregiving and dementia.
Okay. Well, I have been very close to my family my entire life. And my grandmother, who was my favorite person in the world, an icon, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia when she was in her mid-80s. And my mother happened to be a neighbor and live very close by. And my mom became a full-time, in a sense, caregiver, not only to our family, but then to her mom.
Okay.
And so that was the first experience that I had because, my sister and I took on part of that role to support even my mother in her quest of supporting her mom. And so we kind of were thrown into that role as caregivers without really any direct knowledge or understanding that that's who and what we were.
And you also recognized, although you may not have recognized, is that the caregiver needed support.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
even before you understood that the caregiver needed support, you provided support.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about who are you caring for now,
Okay.
and how has this either shaped your experience now, or is it different from your past experience?
Oh, wow. Those are loaded questions. So my caregiving role is very different now because I am a direct caregiver for and to my mom. Her mother has passed away, and my mom's a widow living alone with a recent diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment, but we've done some further testing and know that she has Alzheimer's. And so my role has shifted with that. And we can go into much more detail in a moment, but it's very different from the previous years in supporting her and my grandmother. Now I feel almost like there is a new feeling of ownership that this role has taken me into, and what started out as something maybe a few hours a year,
Yes.
or when I was with my mom, just trying to help her with whatever she needed assistance with. Now it's really more of a daily kind of thing, talking to my mom and um, supporting her from a distance right now. She lives 2 hours away. But it's more of a daily and a weekly commitment and level of support. So it's really different.
So when you talk about difference, and because I get to see you a little bit,
Sure.
this difference, do you think this is some expectations that you have already put upon yourself, or are these of course there are needs, but do you think you have a higher expectation of need versus your expectations? Does that make sense?
It does. And of course, I've put a lot of pressure on myself as the oldest daughter And I think I've told you before, I'm a Capricorn, so I'm very dedicated to my mom. Before my dad died, I promised him that she wouldn't have anything to worry about, that I would make sure she was taken care of. And so that was a very strong commitment. So I have a different, I guess, standard that I hold myself to, even compared to what sometimes the expectations are of my younger sister. So it's definitely, I have placed that level upon myself more than my mom has ever asked for or expected.
So this kind of leads to my next question. So your mom is more in the early stages,
Yes.
correct? So, and with the expectations you put upon yourself,
Hmm.
how has this diagnosis changed your relationship both in a negative way and in a positive way?
Wow. So, and it actually changed in ways I didn't expect. Um, and knowing what I know, doing what we do on a daily basis, working with caregivers in this dementia space, I have to say that receiving validation has changed things a little bit for me. In, like I said, in ways that I had not expected, because now not only do I find myself um, thinking about my mom and her needs, but I'm thinking about what my journey may look like down the road. And so I have to say the emotional expressions have changed a little bit. The questions I ask myself on a daily basis is, what could I be doing differently today with my life, so that not only am I adjusting or changing about my own lifestyle that could have some impact on whether I receive a diagnosis, because we know that a portion of the opportunity for a diagnosis comes from a genetic link. And so now that it's been, further validated that this is what my mom has, I'm looking at, oh my goodness, my mother received a diagnosis officially. Her mother had a diagnosis, and my great granddad back in the late 50s and early 60s was diagnosed with what they then said was hardening of the arteries. So, you have genetic links for everything, but this has really put it in a perspective of, what do I need to be doing, and what can I be changing about my daily routines and my habits and things.
So it made it look at yourself personally,
Very much so.
reflective.
Very much
But let's
so.
talk about the relationship because in the beginnings and for the most part, now you have to give more input into your mother's life. How is she taking that?
She she takes it better some days than others. We actually had a conversation very recently about that topic, because she has some friends who are very independent and somewhat stubborn, and they say that to me or make me do such and such. And my mom paused, God love her, and said, "Well, they do this because they love me and they think it's what's best for me. And so I accept that." So we talked about that, and I expressed to her how important her independence was to me,
Yes.
that she needed to maintain a certain level of independence, and I wanted to encourage her to do what she could on her own to take ownership of her own
Yes.
health and vitality and quality of life. But it definitely puts pressure on those loved ones around, when you're seeing some of the choices they make may not be the ones you would make, or may not be the ones you think they should make. And so sometimes we'll have little tiffs, we'll have words, but never with spite, malice. It's always with love and affection and caring. And there are times, Carolyn, that, I just have to take a breath and know I can only do what I can do and show myself, I think, some grace that
Absolutely.
I'm doing the best that I can with the circumstances. And it is her life. When it boils down to it, these are her choices to make. It's her life to live, but that doesn't make it easier.
It does not. Sidebar question.
Okay.
Knowing that you respect and honor the right for your mother to make her own decisions, have you done all the legal and medical advance directives to document what your mother wants in her journey?
So, yes and no. And I'm really glad you asked that question because it's a great reminder that we have more work to do, even in this case. Um, we've, for many, many years, had her um, living will, her power of attorney, her medical wishes. But I think with this particular diagnosis, we should probably have some additional conversations. She has definitely been very vocal about not wanting to live with family members,
Yes.
that she's asked that we do what we can to allow her to stay at home as long as she can possibly, do that, of course. Um, and so that we need to have some conversations, some hard conversations, I would suspect, ahead because in today's environment, staying at home can be very challenging.
It
It
can
can be very difficult, and especially with me not living in the same city as she lives in. My sister does, but with her full-time employment and her obligations to her own family,
Yes.
my mom may have to make some different choices in the near future, to ensure her wishes can be met, and her desires.
And I think you brought up a very important part of the caregiving story and making decisions about your own life. As diagnosis, as the older we get, things change. And we
That's
can
right.
change our mind, update any documentation. So reminding people to do that.
That's right.
Caring for your loved one is something that many of us don't give second thought to. And it sounds like you, like it was no question, I'm going to do what I have to do.
Right.
However, that does not mean we don't have a I didn't sign up for this moment. Do you have a I didn't sign up for this moment?
There's probably more than one. So I didn't sign up for this moment, um, may have really, really just occurred. Like it or not, the thoughts and conversations are beginning to occur about money,
Yeah.
and it's more around the conversations about, um, mom moving, the potential of possibly having to have her moved again at her age. She's over 80 years old and didn't wanna have to move again, after the death of my dad, and so I didn't sign up for this is occurring over finances, primarily at this point in time, because my mom has, limited income sources, and the questions then become, how do you spend the dollars and keep her safe and secure and have a good quality of life where she, in addition to that, can maintain some ownership of her own destiny and her wishes be met. And so in our family's case, there are some decisions that may in the future even affect the financial stability of myself and my
Yes.
sister. And I don't know that I ever thought about being in this spot, about really having to think really hard and make some difficult and challenging decisions of reminding myself, and this is right, wrong, or indifferent, at this point in time, my mom comes first,
Yes.
and we want to make sure she is taken care of and cared for. And this particular disease can can be years long. If anything, it's just been over the thoughts of the what ifs.
The what ifs.
The what ifs. And I know that's not always the place that we need to be living in because they may not ever come to pass.
And I think some part of this is you kind of thought you were prepared financially
Yes.
for a
Yes.
time as this. But as circumstances change, even with the best planning, it's still some things that you have to still look at
That's
financially.
right.
So
That's right.
that's what I brought out of
Sure.
your answer.
And I was reminded by someone wiser than me in this area, recently that reminded me not to play the what if games,
Yes.
that the what ifs may never come to pass. And so I need and can work harder on when I catch myself playing the what if game, pausing or just stopping and rewinding and say, I'm not even going to go there right now, you know, because the what ifs may not ever happen. And then that just adds more stress and
Anxiety.
pressure and anxiety on myself. And I take ownership of my mom no matter what.
Yes.
And I've got to be in a great place to be able to support her in the more challenging times, not just now, but in those times. And so that's somewhat difficult for me with my personality style.
That control and
That control
But
and that
I don't know.
that structure
I
and
think the one thing that surprises me so much is across the board working with so many families is I don't know why that person that needs control and structure ends up being the caregiver because
Yes.
those two things
they don't match.
don't match in
They
caregiving.
they do
The
not match.
structure.
Yeah.
And you need a routine, but like the structure and control, I don't know why I'm like, here comes the caregiver. They have control and structure. So
Well, and that may be part of our lesson, the journey that we're placed on to try to bring that to light so that whatever is in store for us down the road, we can be on that journey with less stress, anxiety, and all that because we have already had an opportunity to shift gears or change, make some changes that we really need for our future. And we don't see it now, we don't realize it now, but I could see where that could be one of the reasons because this could be what is in store for me.
yeah, you're
This diagnosis is challenging on so many fronts, and one of those being there's a higher chance for me now with age, with genetic links, with environmental links that we have shared with my mom, my grandmother living in the same area of the state. So we have environmental things that probably influenced us genetically and in our cells at a young age, that all of that plays a role. We know. And so, the question is this my story? Is this my future story? And then if I don't want it to be,
how do you write that?
exactly.
How do you write that story?
How do you write the story? You know, and what you could do today potentially to change the trajectory or to change that story for ourselves.
So, Stephenie, I know this is not a fair question to ask, being an employee of Alzheimer's Arkansas. But if you had one program that you would recommend to other caregivers, what program would that be and why?
Ooh. Well, I would number 1, my initial response to that question is go do something. Participate in something outside of your normal routine. So I really love um, the arts and musicals and plays. And so I know one of the things that we have enjoyed for a long time is taking caregivers for some respite and taking them to a dinner theater.
Yes.
So those types of things I love. Or a sporting event to take to have a little break and some fun for maybe a baseball game.
Yes.
But, there are a lot of people that prefer woodwork and painting or jewelry making and just creating crafts in general that I just think they're all important. And the variety that's offered by Alzheimer's Arkansas it is, I think, one of the many things we should be proud of because each caregiver is unique and
Yes.
people like different things, and we're able to bring them a variety of choices quite a bit throughout the year. So I
Thank you.
I really like that.
I liked it as well. And it also, we talked about reducing the risk is one of those things. I love when a caregiver say, I've never done this before. So I know that they're about to get a new skill and use a different part of their brain. So some of the things that we do intentionally, although we may not always say, this is like why we do it. The reason we do it is so the caregiver can be themselves for a moment. But all the other benefits, like learning something new, doing something new, reducing anxiety, being in a social environment, all of those things play along with the reason we do a lot of our programs.
Right. And I like the programs that will challenge or allow a person to express the way they want to express. In other words, if you're creating a that not everyone follows the same, you may be wanting to paint a flower, but they don't all have to look the same.
Yeah.
They don't have to be, um, it doesn't have to look the same or be the same. When you're creating a glass piece or a piece of pottery, put your own creativeness into that whole project and use those other areas of the brain. But, I think a lot of what some members of our team may not realize too is that when our caregivers are given opportunities like this, they have a sense of gratitude
Yes.
and thankfulness and love, which we know can also help to change the brain
Yes.
and be healthy is just that gratitude and happiness and positivity for the environment in which is created in
Yes.
addition to the creative aspect.
Yes.
So it's very important. So I don't know that I have a single favorite thing, but my favorite thing would be the fact that we offer them and that we're able to do that
Yes.
for caregivers.
So, what advice would you give or like to offer to caregivers regarding managing your own expectations?
Oh wow, that's a good question, Carolyn. Well, I think we just sometimes we have to pause. We just have to pause and know that our expectations are just that, they're ours. And as a caregiver, we have to or should respect, admire, love that loved one enough to sometimes set those aside and remember again, this is their life, it is their journey. It's not a journey I can control. And so my expectations may be completely out of whack, right? Or off that course. And so I would say take a breath, remind yourself that you are in a place and time that you've never been before and that you're doing the best that you can with the resources, the knowledge and skills, that you have and love. Unconditional. With my grandmother, she was the type of woman as she grew older, she became, for me, much more insightful. It's like the wisdom you could really see through her, what is supposed to happen as you age, gaining wisdom and potentially a courage, changes in a different way. It's okay for things to change.
Okay.
And she always reminded me there's not anything that you can say or do that's gonna change that love that I have for you. So moving forward, that's gonna be a great reminder as things change to be able to look at my mom and just say love.
Yes.
And hopefully she will know exactly what I mean. Yeah. One of the things that I have to admit too is that I've placed upon myself as a caregiver in beginning stages. Oh, Lordy do. I mean, I'm going to have to really
Take your own
take my
advice.
own advice and remind myself that along this journey, there are going to be so many more times that really call for a stressful situation, not to do things to create any more stress than what there really is.
So we're going to wrap up a little bit. And sometimes I like to jot down what I got from interviews, but I'm going to try something different
Okay.
today. Because a lot of times when we speak, tell our story out loud, hindsight be a 2020, looking forward. What what two things did you get out of your interview that kind of was like, I need to make sure that I stay on task with this, or I would like to share with other caregivers? Like, these are the two things that are important.
One, I think it's very helpful to have a buddy, have a friend, have a colleague, whether it is or a family member or another, but have someone else to express your thoughts and feelings to that will not judge or discriminate against whatever it is you're saying, can just step in and say, "Hey, now wait a minute. Don't forget to blank." Give yourself a break, take a breath. So it's always helpful. And I think some caregivers can find that in a support group. They can find it in a friend. They can find it journaling.
Yes.
But I just think that it's good to have some kind of accountability attached in a sense, not in a negative way, but
Understand.
something to kind of bring us back to reality and know we can only do the best we can. And then something else that came through this particular time with you is just that reminder of the importance of having discussions with your loved ones. That sometimes I think we fail to remember that we're not the only ones changing,
Yes.
that they are too. And so their wishes, their desires are being modified, or should have the opportunity to change or be modified. And so this has been a nice reminder for me to go back to my mom and to my sister, and for us to share some conversations about, well, now that we've officially received this particular diagnosis, or we're in this spot, is there anything that we need to be considering or reconsidering? And that could be whether it's a living will, the use of her financial gifts, where she wants to be. It could be all of those things, but this has been a good reminder of that for me. And remember, in the process of all of the caregiving, is you need to take care of you as well, and to remember that that's just as important as caring for your loved one, and sometimes more important.
Sometimes more important.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing and providing insight into your family's journey. 'Cause
Sure.
this is a family disease.
Yes, it is.
Discover compelling stories and insight into the lives of families caring for loved ones with dementia and chronic illness. Join us to learn, connect, and be inspired. I invite you to leave a review or share a comment. Thanks again to Elder Independence Home Care for sponsoring this episode, and be sure to join us next time for I Didn't Sign Up for This.
I Didn't Sign Up for This is brought to you by Alzheimer's Arkansas, an independent nonprofit organization that supports families in Arkansas caring for their loved ones with Alzheimer's, other forms of dementia, and chronic illnesses. For resources, support, and community, visit alzark.org and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Didn't Sign Up for This.